You know, I've been asked countless times by people who've had what they call a spiritual awakening, why do I feel so unmotivated? Why does nothing seem to matter anymore? I used to be ambitious. I used to want things. I used to have goals and dreams, and now nothing. And they say this with a kind of concern, as if something has gone terribly wrong. As if the awakening itself was a mistake, a cosmic error that needs to be corrected. But let me tell you something that might surprise you. What you're experiencing isn't a problem at all. It's actually the most natural thing in the world. You see, what we call motivation in the ordinary sense is really just a sophisticated form of running away. It's escape. When you were motivated before, what were you really motivated by? Fear. Fear of not being enough. Fear of death. Fear of meaninglessness. Fear of being nobody, going nowhere, amounting to nothing. Think about it carefully. All that striving, all that ambition, all those goals you set for yourself, they were all based on a fundamental assumption. The assumption that you were insufficient as you are, that you needed to become something other than what you are, that life needed to be fixed, improved, gotten somewhere with. You were operating under the illusion that you were a separate individual who needed to make their mark on the world, who needed to justify their existence, who needed to prove their worth. But then something happened. You woke up, and in that awakening, you saw through the game. You realized, perhaps suddenly, or perhaps gradually, that the whole thing was a magnificent hoax. Not a malicious hoax, mind you, but a cosmic game of hide and seek. You discovered that you are not, in fact, a separate fragment of consciousness locked inside a bag of skin, desperately trying to survive in a hostile universe. You realize that you are the universe itself, playing at being you. Now, when this realization dawns, even partially, what happens to all those motivations you had before? They collapse. They have to collapse because they were built on sand. They were built on a false premise, the premise of separation, of lack, of incompleteness. And once you see that the premise is false, the entire structure that was built upon it becomes, well, rather absurd, doesn't it? Imagine you're watching a movie and you're completely absorbed in it. The hero is in danger and you're on the edge of your seat, heart pounding, palms sweating. You're motivated to see him escape, to see him triumph. But then someone turns on the lights and you suddenly remember, oh yes, it's just a movie. It's just actors on a screen. Nobody is actually in danger. Now, can you return to that same level of motivation? Can you care as intensely as you did before? Of course not. You've seen through it. This is what has happened to you. You've had the lights turned on, so to speak, and now you're sitting there wondering why you can't get back into the movie. Why you can't summon the same intensity of concern and ambition you once had. And my question to you is, why would you want to? You see, there's a common misunderstanding about spiritual awakening. People think it's supposed to make you into some kind of super person, more successful, more motivated, more capable. They think enlightenment means you'll be better at the game of life. But that's not what awakening is about at all. Awakening means seeing that life isn't a game you need to win. It's a dance you're invited to participate in, or not, as you choose. Let me put it another way. Before awakening, you were like someone who believed they needed to make waves in the ocean. You were splashing about frantically, trying to create the biggest splash, trying to make your mark on the water. But after awakening, you realize you are the ocean. The waves are already happening. They don't need your anxiety to propel them forward. They move by themselves, naturally, effortlessly. This is what the Taoists call wu-wei, action without action, or effortless doing. It's not that you become passive or lazy. Rather, you stop forcing things. You stop pushing the river. You allow life to flow through you rather than constantly trying to manipulate it to your advantage. Now, here's where it gets interesting. You see, motivation, as we commonly understand it, is tied up with desire, and desire is tied up with the feeling of lack. You desire what you don't have. You're motivated to pursue what you believe will complete you, fulfill you, make you whole. But awakening reveals that you're already whole. You're already complete. There's nothing lacking, nothing that needs to be added to you to make you acceptable or worthwhile. This realization can be profoundly destabilizing, because your entire life up until this point has been organized around the pursuit of fulfillment. Your career, your relationships, your hobbies, your ambitions, all of it was geared toward filling what you perceived as a fundamental emptiness inside yourself. And now, suddenly, you realize there is no emptiness to fill. Or rather, the emptiness itself is fullness. The void is plenum. So naturally, you feel unmotivated. All your previous motivations were attempts to escape from yourself, to become something other than what you are. But now that you've glimpsed your true nature, that particular game loses its appeal. It's like trying to convince someone who's discovered they're already a millionaire to keep working desperately for pennies. Why would they? What would be the point? But, and this is crucial, this doesn't mean you do nothing. It doesn't mean you lie in bed all day staring at the ceiling. What it means is that your actions are no longer driven by fear and lack. They arise spontaneously, naturally, from your being, rather than from your desperate doing. Think of a tree. Is a tree motivated to grow? Does it have goals and ambitions? Does it wake up in the morning and set intentions for how many leaves it's going to produce that day? Of course not. It simply grows. It's its nature to grow. And in the same way, when you're no longer blocked by the false sense of being a separate ego that needs to constantly justify its existence, you simply do what's natural to you. Not because you should, not because it will get you somewhere, but because it's an expression of what you are. This is the great paradox that so many people stumble over. They awaken and expect to feel more motivated than ever, more clear about their purpose, more driven to achieve great things. Instead, they feel empty, directionless, unmotivated, and they panic, thinking something has gone wrong, but nothing has gone wrong. What's happened is that the false motivation, the fear-based, ego-driven motivation, has been revealed for what it is. And in its absence, there's a space, a silence, a stillness. Most people find this silence terrifying. They immediately try to fill it up again with new goals, new ambitions, new spiritual pursuits. They turn awakening itself into another achievement to pursue, another identity to construct. Now, I'm not just John or Jane, I'm awakened John, enlightened Jane, but this is just the ego wearing different clothes. It's still the same game of separation and striving, just dressed up in spiritual language. The real question is, can you tolerate the emptiness? Can you sit with the lack of motivation without trying to fix it, without trying to generate artificial enthusiasm for things that no longer genuinely interest you? Can you be nobody going nowhere and be completely at peace with that? This is where the real work begins. And I use the word work loosely because it's not work in the usual sense. It's more like allowing. Allowing yourself to be without purpose. Allowing yourself to exist without justification. Allowing life to move through you without your constant interference and management. You see, what most people don't realize is that the universe is not static. It's not a dead thing that needs to be pushed and prodded into action. It's alive, dynamic, constantly creating itself. And you are not separate from this creative process. You are this creative process. When you stop trying to control everything, when you stop forcing your personal will onto reality, something remarkable happens. The larger intelligence of life itself begins to express through you. But this requires trust. Enormous trust. You have to trust that life knows what it's doing, that the universe is not going to let you fall through the cracks just because you're not micromanaging every detail of your existence. This is perhaps the hardest thing for the Western mind to accept, because we've been trained from birth to believe that we have to make things happen, that nothing will get done unless we personally see to it. Eastern philosophy has a different perspective. In Taoism, there's this wonderful idea that the universe is self-governing, that it operates by spontaneous harmony without any need for central control or planning. A tree doesn't need a supervisor to tell it how to grow. A bird doesn't need a manual on how to build a nest. And in the same way, you don't need your anxious ego to tell you how to live. Life already knows how to live itself through you. Now, I can hear the objection already, but Alan, if I don't motivate myself, I'll just become lazy. I'll accomplish nothing. I'll waste my life. This objection comes from the assumption that human beings are fundamentally lazy and need to be whipped into action. But is this really true? Look at children before they're conditioned by society. Are they unmotivated? On the contrary, they're bursting with energy and curiosity. They don't need to be motivated to play, to explore, to create. It's their nature. What happens is that this natural spontaneity gets crushed by education, by socialization, by the constant message that you need to be productive, useful, successful. You need to prove your worth. You need to earn your place in the world. And so you develop this artificial motivation system, this internal slave driver that's constantly pushing you, criticizing you, never allowing you to simply be. Spiritual awakening dismantles this internal slave driver. And yes, when it goes, you feel unmotivated, but only unmotivated to participate in that particular game of self-torture. What emerges in its place, if you're patient, is something much more natural and authentic. Not the frantic energy of someone running away from their fear of death and meaninglessness, but the calm, steady energy of someone who's at home in themselves, who's at peace with existence. Let me share something with you. When I was younger, I was tremendously ambitious. I wanted to make a name for myself, to be recognized, to be somebody important. I threw myself into my studies, into my work, into my writing, and there was a certain energy to it, yes, but it was the energy of desperation. I was running, trying to outpace my own sense of inadequacy. Then, through my study of Eastern philosophy and my own inner work, something shifted. The urgency fell away. And for a time, I felt exactly what you're feeling now, unmotivated, directionless, wondering what the point was. But I sat with it. I didn't try to fix it or escape from it. And gradually, I discovered that actions still happened. Words still came. Work still got done. But it wasn't coming from that desperate, anxious place anymore. It was coming from, well, it's hard to describe. From silence, perhaps. From emptiness. From the simple joy of doing the thing for its own sake, not for what it might achieve. This is what the Zen masters mean when they talk about chopping wood, carrying water. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The actions look the same from the outside, but the internal quality is completely different. Before awakening, you chop wood because you should, because it needs to be done, because you're trying to be a good person or achieve some goal. After awakening, you chop wood because you're chopping wood. That's all. No hidden agenda, no ulterior motive, just the pure act itself. And here's the beautiful thing. When you act from this place of spontaneous naturalness rather than forced motivation, your actions tend to be much more effective. They're not confused by all the psychological baggage, all the fear and desire and anxiety. They're clean, direct, appropriate to the situation. It's like the difference between muddy water and clear water. Both are water, but one allows you to see clearly, and the other doesn't. So what do you do with this lack of motivation you're experiencing? Nothing. You do nothing with it. You let it be. You stop trying to fix yourself, to improve yourself, to motivate yourself. You allow this phase to unfold in its own time. Because what's really happening is that you're being reorganized at a fundamental level. The old software is being uninstalled, so to speak, and new software is being written. But this process can't be rushed. It has its own timing, its own rhythm. In the meantime, be gentle with yourself. Don't compare yourself to who you were before, or to who you think you should be. Don't try to force yourself back into old patterns that no longer fit. Instead, be curious. Observe what's happening without judgment. Notice what naturally attracts your attention, what makes you feel alive, what makes you laugh or wonder or feel deeply. You might find that your interests have completely changed. Things that once seemed tremendously important might now seem trivial. and things you never paid attention to before might suddenly captivate you. This is natural. You're not the same person you were before awakening. You can't expect to want the same things or be motivated by the same goals. There's a wonderful story from the Zen tradition about a master who, after his enlightenment, was asked what he did. He said, "When I'm hungry, I eat. When I'm tired, I sleep." His questioner was puzzled. "But doesn't everyone do that?" The master replied, "No. When most people eat, they're thinking about 1,000 other things. When they sleep, they're worrying about tomorrow. But when I eat, I just eat. When I sleep, I just sleep." This is the quality of life that emerges after the false motivation falls away. Not a life of high achievement or constant productivity, necessarily, but a life of presence, of wholeness, of being fully here for whatever is happening right now. And paradoxically, this often leads to a kind of productivity that far exceeds what forced motivation ever achieved, because it's not scattered and conflicted. It's unified, focused, natural, but whether it leads to great productivity or not is beside the point. The point is that you're no longer living from a place of lack and fear. You're living from a place of sufficiency and peace. And from that place, whatever unfolds is exactly what needs to unfold. So don't worry about your lack of motivation. Don't try to whip yourself back into shape. Don't feel guilty for not having goals and ambitions. Instead, rest in the recognition that brought you to this point in the first place. The recognition that you are already whole, already complete, already home. Everything else will take care of itself. The universe has been managing quite well for billions of years without your anxious interference. It will continue to manage, and you are not separate from that management. You are how the universe is managing things right here, right now, in this particular location. Trust that. Trust yourself. Trust life. And in that trust, you might just discover that what you thought was lack of motivation was actually the presence of something much deeper, not the frantic energy of escape, but the profound power of simply being. And that power, though it appears as stillness, is the source from which all genuine action flows.